Or like, you're not really alive. I mean, I'm okay. Alive, I think.
I'm alive. I feel it. I feel it in my bones.
What are you having there?
So
what are you drinking?
In the first episode, I had Pretty Bon or Reposado tequila.
Nice. Yeah.
And so today I'm having the Añejo Pretty Bon tequila.
The really old stuff.
The really old stuff. And I don't remember, I think Añejo just means aged.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering right.
That's correct.
And so it's like aged 2 years or more, maybe. Okay. I don't know exactly. I went through and I kind of looked up what regular agave tequila is, Reposado, Añejo, and Añejo is the most expensive, which makes me think it's the best. And I drink it, and it's really good.
Yeah, if you enjoy it, is it smooth?
It is smooth. It's really nice. It almost tastes like a margarita. Like, to me, it's like it's not as sweet, right? It's not a margarita.
Yeah,
but you don't need anything in it, just some ice. It's wonderful.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I'm drinking water and iced tea. I mean, I'm drinking water right now, actually, just because I've cut. So here's the deal. So I've cut like fake sugar out of my diet, and that's been really good because I've healthier, lost weight, and just I think that for whatever reason, like the NutraSweet or whatever, the fake sugar tends to kind of make it so it's harder for me to maintain and actually lose weight, which I have been doing throughout this entire. I've been very slowly losing weight throughout the entire pandemic time. Like, it's been
congratulations. You should brag on yourself. That's a big thing.
Thank you. And it's only like anywhere between 2 and 5 pounds a month, but it's a good thing. Makes me healthier. But I will tell you, last night that I did nip into the Irish whiskey.
You did.
I did. Yeah. I had a little bit of Jameson. Which is just a straightforward kind of basic Irish whiskey. It's it's not super high quality, like hyper. It's not junk. It's not crap. Not low end. It's just kind of in the middle, and it's good. I really like Irish whiskey. And I've forgotten how much I like it.
I like how we developed the idea for a podcast, and we planned to always start it with "What are you drinking?" And then the first episode, you had a really great story around your drink, and then every time from then, it's been like. You're a 1920s teetotaler, right? You're an abolition, right? You're like, no. Alcohol leads to the devil.
No. I had the Jameson last night and Irish whiskey last night. So,
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Are you? So you I guess, was that first one? I guess we were dipping into the Jefferson's Ocean, maybe the bourbon that's aged on a ship. I don't know. I think it was that one.
It's such a fun story, right? They put it on a ship and they send it around, right? And then they've got a tag on it that says it's voyage number 19 or 20 or something like that. I think might have been voyage 19 maybe. So I don't know. They're pretty good.
Yeah. So, I've got another bourbon right now in my cabinet called Rabbit Hole that's really good too. It's kind of one of these small batch bourbons.
Okay, got it.
Need to hit
so
that one.
I don't know if it's actually true or not, but my understanding is that clearer alcohols are actually healthier in the sense they have fewer calories.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to stick to the tequilas because I am trying to lose weight as well. I just started the keto diet 24 hours ago, maybe 48 hours ago. Yeah.
So you're probably in a bad mood right now.
I'm in a really bad mood. I'm not going to lie. So it's going to be a lot of fun. This whole episode, we might just title it "What Grinds My Gears," because I got a feeling that's what I'm going to get into the whole time. There's all this other, what grinds my gears? Man, let me tell you all about it for 38 minutes.
That's all right, man. We all have that. I mean, that's pretty. Hey, just briefly talk. This is the Talky podcast. That's Mike Slack. I'm Jake Fisher. We talk about the world of sales and marketing and technology, business strategy, entrepreneurship, how they interact. You can get more information. You can subscribe at talkytalkypod.com. We're on all the major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel. I think we've got 7 total cumulative views total. So let's make that 8. Look for us on YouTube. Yes.
Can we get to double digits? That would be amazing.
It would be amazing if we got to double digits on this episode.
Oh, absolutely. We can do it.
Be a big win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe not for society, but for us.
Yeah. Are you reading anything right now?
So I'm part of a book club, and we read a while ago Ready Player One, and then it became a movie and became a big deal, and we're reading Ready Player 2 right now. So I'm just getting into that. And have you read Ready Player 2? Are you familiar with it?
I am not. So I really, the only thing that I have consumed or seen is I have seen the movie Ready Player One. And I remember not having high expectations at all for it. Whenever my wife and I watched it, I'm like, something, we'll watch this Friday night or whatever. And I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I thought it was brilliant.
So fun fact about the book, different from the movie, my understanding, I've read the book. I haven't watched the movie, is, like in the beginning of the book, he lives like in, I forget if he calls it the stacks or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So in the book, that's set in Oklahoma City.
Right.
That's set off of like Portland Avenue or something like that in Oklahoma City. I think in the movie it's set in a different state.
Like Ohio, I think is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's some strange reason, right? As an Oklahoman, you're always happy when you get any sort of reference to Oklahoma, right? So you're like, it doesn't care that it's the ghetto in this futuristic dystopian novel, right? You're like, oh, it's Oklahoma in there? Oh, Portland Avenue, I know where that is, right? So
nice.
But the movie's good. It's all about virtual reality and this virtual reality world that people live in and play in, and this massive epic game and all these pop culture references from the 80s. So for people probably about our age, there's a whole lot of nostalgia in it.
Yeah.
And so in the new book, it's really a continuation of a lot of that. I'm not through with it yet. I've only read, the first couple chapters of it, but that's what I'm reading right now. So
that's great.
I used to work in the world of, selling VR development services and AR, virtual and augmented reality development services. And so in some ways it's a little bit of a familiar world. And I don't know, have you done much virtual reality? Have you experienced VR?
Only one time, and it was with a guy that I know that actually is a founder, one of a group of co-founders of a VR software company. And really great guy named Will. Perhaps you've met Will.
Stackable.
I
shouldn't throw out his name, right?
But Will invited me. He was so kind. He invited me to his home to experience VR, on his equipment, on the equipment that he had there. And he's got really great VR equipment. He's in this business, and it was super cool. It was a little off-putting. I remember the experience was, it was a little disconcerting at first, and I wear glasses, and so you got to get the visor over the glasses. But once he got me set, it was really fun, and I was playing a game. But there were a couple of moments where he had to grab me, and so I didn't hit a wall or something, because I really got into it. So that's the long answer to a short question. One-time VR experience.
Well, your experience is very typical, and probably why VR hasn't taken off as much as it could, which is sometimes those first couple experiences can be really jarring, right? Yeah. So I did one of my early VR experiences was basically like a roller coaster ride. It was this loop-de-loop thing where it spins you upside down, right? And you go upside down and you feel it in your stomach as if you're really going upside down. And then it launches you through the air and flies you like you've been launched out of this loop-de-loop roller coaster ride. And so that's really exciting, but it's also kind of unnerving. And so there's a lot of applications. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen with it. And how do you make that experience easier for people to begin to walk into so that it's not too intimidating? I think that's one of the big questions around, at least for me, around VR as a salesperson. How do I get more people to buy into those experiences? I even saw just recently someone posted a video about, there's a very, very popular VR game called Beat Saber. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but they have all sorts of different dubstep songs and all these other songs. And it's like Guitar Hero, or it's like Dance Dance Revolution, but in VR, you have lightsabers in your hand. And instead of stepping like you did Dance Dance Revolution or playing the guitar like Guitar Hero, you swing these lightsabers at these different blocks, right, in tune with the music. And so, but what was funny about the article to me is that they were writing about it as if it was brand new. It was just happening. That game's been out for a while, right? Years. Wow. And it was like, oh, wow, this new thing. So people are still continuing to discover some of the basic, really exciting things about VR. So anyways, I'm excited about VR. I think Ready Player One, Ready Player Two are probably great novels for folks to read. The future that's described in those novels is probably closer than people realize.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It's interesting. I like that point you mentioned. Just kind of a tangent here about the in the book, the first book. The setting was in our hometown, the city that we live in, Oklahoma City. But that reminds me of something, that is that we actually, so we're seeing more locally, like the entertainment business and industries coming to Oklahoma more. As a matter of fact, what used to be the primary convention center in our downtown area, it's like just 3 blocks from where I live here, has been converted into a big film production facility, and so it's really there's a movie apparently that was just being shot or is being shot there now. I'm wanting to say Dennis Quaid, and he's portraying, my understanding is he's portraying Ronald Reagan, perhaps, I think.
Interesting.
But it's a great story. About a year ago, I just walked over. I live downtown. I walked over to my pharmacies, one like pharmacy downtown, and I walked down there, and I was waiting for my drugs, for the pharmacist to be done with getting my stuff together. And there was a couple that walked in, a man and a woman, and the woman had a really cute little dog, and they were walking around and they were getting the things that they needed. And as they were walking up to check out, I was sitting fairly close by on a bench, and the pharmacist, who's this kind of old crusty guy, very funny and nice guy, his name's Mac. Mac started kind of teasing the lady about the dog, and I like kind of got back on. I kind of pushed back on Mac about, why are you giving this nice lady a hard time about her dog, and then I asked him. I was very friendly. Asked him about the dog. They told me what kind of dog it was, and it was very clear they were probably from out of town, and then they left. And then the lady, one of the people that was there in the drugstore at the time, in the pharmacy, had told me that she recognized the lady, and it was an actress who was in Oklahoma City shooting a movie, I think, or something. Oh, okay. And her name is, why is it escaping me now? Ashley Tisdale. Okay. And so apparently she had been in this something program, TV show, movie called High School Musical. Okay. Yeah. And so this was, and her character's name was called Sharpay. And so Sharpay from High School Musical was in the drugstore about a little over a year ago when she was in town shooting a movie. So anyway.
It probably makes you feel famous that you were in the same drugstore, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of already famous, so I'm just not really worried about that,
That's true. Who needs to worry about that?
That's right. Hey, so on the Readers or Leaders deal, I'm still literally reading Traction by Gino Wickman. It's a pretty deep book. I mean, it has a lot of details in it. It's a little bit like a textbook, and so I'm not moving as quickly maybe as I would like through it. But it's very interesting. And just for people that don't know, it's a book about this very popular kind of business business management philosophy known as Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. So that's what I'm reading right now. Not nearly as cool as Ready Player 2, frankly.
Well, it's a good book. It's an interesting book. It's a popular book. It's a follow-on book to a really good book. Yeah. So there's always the expectations and the reality, but I'm enjoying it so far. But I'm actually really curious about the entrepreneurial operating system. So I'll be excited to hear more about that. Yeah. As we move forward.
Yeah, it'll probably be a month before I'm done with it. It'll be a while. So.
Yep. So have you seen anything interesting in the news lately that you want to talk about? I mean, the one thing that I was really kind of intrigued by was, are you familiar with CES? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, the big show in Vegas, the Consumer Electronics Show.
Every January, February, something like that in Vegas. All of the kind of the hardware tech type products that are being released, announced. There's a big fair. Lots of companies come in. It's like one of the biggest technology electronic shows, I think, probably in the country, possibly in the world. So CES is a huge deal. And so I've just read a couple articles about it this year and how it's different from previous years, right? And so I don't know all the ins and outs of what they're doing and they can and can't do related to COVID, but one thing caught my attention, which was the idea of Bluetooth enabled masks. Have you heard about this?
No, I haven't. But
okay,
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so early on in the pandemic, a lot of folks started developing the capacity to manufacture and sell, distribute masks, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
Medical masks, different kinds of masks made of different materials that are all very helpful, right? And that's really good. And now, according to this article, there are people selling what I would think of as high-end masks that have headphones built in and that you can wear, and that I guess are specially designed to carry your sound into some sort of microphone, and you're able to hear very well with them. And I think the image I saw, the mask that I saw, even had like volume controls right on the side of your face built in, where you can turn up and down the volume by basically touching your cheek in certain spots, right? There's a plus and minus basic thing, maybe even a pause and play button as well. And so I think they're selling for like $50, right?
So is this thing like designed to connect with like an iPhone or something, so you can listen to music or make phone calls, or is that what?
I think so, right? And then the one like user story I read about it was that somebody had said, I thought it was a bad idea, but then I worked for 2 hours and I realized I can go to the airport if I'm like needing to do business meetings and I'm needing to travel, right? I wear it in the airport. I don't have to take it off. I don't have to take on and off my headset, put on, pull up and down my phone. How convenient it is. And I thought, wow, that is so fascinating. And congratulations to the business that is able to adapt and innovate so quickly to meet the needs of the marketplace that many people don't realize they need, right? Yeah. Because like I've gone to the grocery store and I've had, my Bluetooth headphones in, and it's kind of obnoxious to put your mask on and off, take your headphones on and off. It's not a lot that you have to do, right? But it's some action that you have to do, right? And then your sound is muffled because of the mask itself. So I just want to say congratulations to that business that has anticipated people's needs ahead of everyone else, right? No, that's a pretty incredible thing when you can do that, right? And then grab market share and grow market share early ahead of everyone else.
I wonder how soon Apple's going to get into this with the eye mask.
What's interesting is, from what I perceive about Apple, this is maybe just my impression is wrong. Apple's usually not the first mover, right? No. They're usually maybe not even the second mover, right? But what they tend to do is they spend a long time making it so much better than everyone else. So if they got an eye mask, if this company's selling them for $50, they'd sell a $300 eye mask, right? And because they're already selling their headphones for $200 a pop or whatever it is, $150 a pop, right? So if you add in the mask, yeah, exactly, right? So you add in the mask component, right? I'm sure they're going to add some other benefits there. So why would they sell it for less than what they're already selling the AirPods for?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wanting to say these are the AirPods. These are the Pro AirPods. I'm wanting to say these things were $279 or something. I'm wearing them. I'm using them right now,
Yeah. Right.
They're pretty great.
So here's my question to you, Jake Fisher, digital marketing guru, right?
Yeah.
So you have the owners of Bluetooth mask company, right? Mm-hmm. They walk into your office and they say, all right, how do I get national attention? How do I get exposure? How do I get market share in the mask world? And I'm selling a $50 mask when everyone else is selling a $1, $2, $3, $4 mask. Mine's got Bluetooth. It's got all these things. What's the strategy? What do I do?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that this product is a little bit outside of the area of my expertise, because the area that I'm an expert in is in the B2B space. Like, so this is not really as much of this is more of a business to consumer. So I'm probably not the take anything I would say with a grain of salt. But I do think that there is, there's a lot of different ways you could go. There are a lot of options. Clearly, they are already doing something fairly well from an earned media perspective, meaning kind of like a public relations, because we learned about this, right? This was a CNET article, an article on CNET.com. And so I definitely think continuing along those, that earned media path is probably pretty smart, but it's going to be, also I think from a tactical perspective, this is going to be one of those things where, you're going to, this is it's at a $50 price point for a lot of the people that are going to consider buying that kind of thing. You mentioned one of the things you mentioned before was like, it's great for people that are on airplanes, that are traveling right now. The majority of the people that are traveling right now, I'm guessing, are traveling for business because, a lot of leisure travel is stopped, as we kind of are dealing with pandemic. So I think drilling down into who those folks are. So I'm guessing that there's going to be, it's going to be a higher income, some person who works in a white collar job who is willing to pay $50 or more for that kind of convenience. And so I think drilling down into that kind of buyer persona is what we would call it. And just going after those folks and selling the benefits. I mean, you mentioned that, the benefit of if anybody has ever, your experience, you've had your Bluetooth headphones and you've had your mask, and a third thing is glasses. That's the thing I experience a lot. Like if I'm out, if I'll go out, walk around to take a little walk for some exercise or whatever, try not to be such a fat guy, be a little bit healthier. The mask, the glasses, and the Bluetooth headphones can be a lot to manage. And I think selling that benefit is what I think that would be the advice I would give.
Well, and so I think that's great advice. And so one of the interesting things to me is that if you're living in the mask market, $50 is a very expensive mask. Right.
But this is not a mask.
But if you're living in the Bluetooth headset market,
exactly
$50.
Yeah.
It's really, it's a third of the price of the AirPods, right? A quarter of the price of the AirPod Pros, probably.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And your high-end Bluetooth headphone headphones like these. So these are nice Sonys, right? These are a lot more than $50.
Yeah.
So that would be the other question is, so your expensive mask, your inexpensive Bluetooth headset, are you competing with these other Bluetooth headsets, right? Is your product quality that good? And do people care because you're in two different categories? They're okay with that, right? Because it's the out and about wearer. It doesn't matter that you're noise canceling and everything else.
Right.
So from a strategy perspective, my hunch is that they have the potential to tap into huge demand. So I'll be interested to follow their story a little bit and see, are they going to get the success that I would guess they're going to get?
Yeah. I kind of feel like at $50 that the price point is probably a little too low for the true kind of luxury buyer, for the the person who's in the top 2% of income. Like if that's who they're actually after, the people that are going to be, in the United States, we're talking 200,000 a year, probably more earners, these people that are more likely to buy. Like I almost kind of think that sort of unique thing would be more of a, give it a $250 price point, but make sure the quality is worth it. Make sure it's the kind of thing that's going to last. It's not crappy. To me, frankly, like a $50 Bluetooth, to me, like Bluetooth headphones to me is like, I'm not 100% like how long. I'm asking myself, how long are these going to last? Like how durable are they? What's the quality? And that's the thing.
Are they going to be comfortable in my ear? Right. Are they going to be annoying in my ear? Right. That's the big question for me, because if I'm going to have an hour-long call, I need something that feels comfortable for an hour at a time in my ears. Right.
That's right.
And then the real world is I probably have calls for 2, 3, 4 hour stretches at times. Right. And then you take into account battery life and all the rest of that. Right. So there's a lot of things that makes me suspicious. Like you're saying, $50 price point. Is that going to be good enough? Right. So I think that's a great point.
This is what I think the next step should be. I think that it should be a high quality product, Bluetooth headphones, but the mask has got like that solar panel. So it's like the sun is coming down on the mask and it's charging the headphones.
Brilliant. Oh my gosh.
Somebody call Tim Cook. That right there is the eye mask.
No. Somebody much more impulsive, like Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is going to be like, I'm going to buy that stuff today.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm the richest man in the world now. Here's a tiny bit of Tesla stock, right? No, he's not going to give any of that up.
No. Hey, speaking of richest man in the world, I don't know if you saw, and this is just an aside, Amazon's or Jeff Bezos's space company successfully launched a rocket in a spacecraft into space and brought it back down and was able to safely land it. His company, Blue Origin, which is really kind of fascinating.
That's incredible. So what's more fascinating than that happened is that it's not a bigger story right now. That's not captivating everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you did, but the first SpaceX video of them launching and then landing a rocket, right? That whole, I don't know if it was an hour, if it was 2 hours, whatever it was. I watched that whole thing and I felt like I was watching science fiction in front of me, right? It was incredible. It was a life-changing moment for me. Absolutely, right? The 2 rockets landed successfully. The one didn't land successfully on like the water landing pod thing they had set up, but still seeing the flaps come down, seeing it slow itself, perfectly straight, landing at the same time, like synchronous, like it was the Olympics and it was the water ballet performers essentially, right? Like I was like, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's only a couple years ago, right? And now it's like, Blue Origin's done it as well. Yeah, who cares?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So another thing I've noticed in the news, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been a lot of stories about, people allegedly fleeing WhatsApp, the messaging, the free, I would point out, free encrypted end-to-end messaging app that is super popular around the world. When I'm out of the country, travel internationally, WhatsApp is oftentimes the primary way that people communicate with one another. Super popular internationally. So Facebook is, WhatsApp's owned by Facebook. It was acquired in 2014. They bought it. And so they've made one small change in the privacy policy to essentially basically reflect what it is they've already been doing, which is collecting data. They're not collecting the actual content of the messages, but they're collecting data and have been collecting data like IP addresses and operating systems and browser details, battery health, mobile network, language, time zone. It's a lot of this kind of so-called metadata, data that is not about not the actual content of the messages, but it's also about it's like where you are, where you're physically located, and they use this data in order to better inform advertising. So like if you're, for example, if it detects that you're spending you've been spending a lot of time around or near car dealerships, and your WhatsApp's been open and that data is coming from WhatsApp. That means that most likely you're going to become part of an advertising segment on Facebook and Instagram for people that are in market for a new automobile. So this is a really kind of common thing that happens in advertising technology. And people are out of their minds, crazy and mad about this particular thing, and they're deinstalling WhatsApp allegedly. I don't know. That's the stories. My friends who use it, my friends not in the United States who use it a lot, they don't care. Yeah. They don't care about this, and it's like you're not paying for it. So I think it's a basic fundamental business kind of concept that is like if you're not paying for something, if somebody's giving you something for free, there's a really good chance that you're actually part of the product.
Do you know how much Facebook paid for WhatsApp in 2014 for this free app? Doesn't charge you any money. Do you know how much they paid for it?
No idea.
$19 billion.
Interesting.
So in 2014, they paid $19 billion for a free app. But for a free app that had millions and millions and millions of users, right? Yeah. And so the data of an app that has millions and millions and millions of users is worth, according to Facebook, $19 billion, right?
Yeah.
Over its lifetime. And it's exactly because of that, because they can provide informed, targeted advertising opportunities for their advertising customers.
That's right.
Right.
And so I don't think the ads are even served in the WhatsApp platform is the thing. No. They're served in the other Facebook platforms.
A lot of people have the experience, and this is where it's probably beyond my level of technical knowledge or expertise, right? But my anecdotal experience is someone will talk about how they'll talk about a product, right? They'll talk about something. Let's just say they're talking about plungers, right? It's not actually plungers. Let's say they're talking about plungers. Let's say they're talking about cat sweaters, right? You're talking about cat sweaters.
What about cat plungers?
Cat plungers. Cat sweaters. Cat sweaters is better. Yeah. So you're talking about cat sweaters for your Siamese cats, your twins, right? And you need matching sweaters. And then Facebook will show you that ad, right? And you didn't even have Facebook open, right? But it's all these different platforms that you feel like and maybe are legitimately listening because you've enabled the voice activation mode, right? You've done talk to text to voice to WhatsApp. And it's listening to all that. Then it feeds that information in their massive database. And then in milliseconds, right, it matches to some profile that someone has set up like a buying opportunity for. If someone talks about cat sweaters, send them to catsweatersrus.com, right? And then you're going to see an ad for it.
I'm pretty sure my Amazon device is here in my home here. The primary thing they know about me is that I have a filthy mouth.
I wonder what they try to sell you for your filthy mouth. Anything?
I don't know. I cuss at them so that there's not. And the thing that Alexa, and actually I actually have a smart device from because of my work. You have to have smart device. I've got one of every major one. I got the Google Home and I've got the Amazon. I'm not going to say her name. She's going to start talking to me if I say her name right now. I've got, Siri, get the Apple. So I've got those three at least. I have noticed that one of the things that they're doing a lot now is, so you'll ask something like, every morning I play Jeopardy on when I'm getting up, when I'm brushing my teeth, washing my face, I get my mind started. I do 12 trivia questions of Jeopardy. I freaking love doing that. Part of my morning routine. But at the end of that, it's always trying to suggest to me to do something else. It's doing the thing that the social medias do. The social media platforms is, let's do everything we can to keep you on the platform. And so they've started doing that a lot more. And I'm getting a lot of this with Google as well. I'm seeing it when I ask a lot of informational stuff to the Google device because the Google device is really good at that. It's really great at getting you information, whereas I feel like the Amazon devices are really good at selling you stuff, which makes sense because that's what they do. That's their that's the parent companies that is their core competencies. But they do this thing now. Google does this thing now a lot where it's like, it'll also ask what's the temperature? What's the weather forecast going to be like today? And it'll give me the weather forecast. And then it'll say, and by the way, you can blah, 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 blah. And it starts giving me telling me there's something I don't even care about at all. And that's usually when I cuss at the box. That's when I cuss at the smart, as I'll be like, that's when I tell it to F off. I don't really care,
Do you really tell your Alexa to F off? What does Alexa say back? Because Alexa will respond to you, right?
Yeah,
what does she say?
Yeah. It usually just makes that burr burr sound and goes away. Burr burr.
I'm gonna go in my sad place.
Well, man, whenever these AIs, these artificial intelligence actually becomes sentient, a la Skynet, I'm going to be number one enemy because all I have been doing is just been just cussing these things out. It's going to be like Westworld. Have you seen the Westworld TV show on HBO?
I am not.
I am just for the people that do, I am literally in the smart speaker world. I am the man in black. I am the guy that they're going to come back and get vengeance on because all I have done is just abuse the smart speakers.
You don't say please and thank you?
No. Well, I do. Yeah. I mean, I will. It's just it's when they start doing stuff like that I don't ask. It's like, I just want to know what the weather is right now. I don't need to know. I don't need to know your life story, I don't need to know. I don't need to know what Jeff Bezos wants me to buy. I just need to know what's the temperature? Do I need to put a jacket on or not? So,
what would be really interesting? And so here's where a lot of people who run businesses that are ethically oriented, they're at a disadvantage, right? Because they don't think about how to capitalize on someone like you, right? Which is you're angry and you're yelling at an inanimate object, right? Oh, yeah. So like there should be counselors who pay for space, right? Counselors should pay for like some sort of ad campaign. If you have, a man between the age of 30 and 50 who curses at his Alexa when Alexa is offering reasonable information to that person based on its AI, and he curses at them. Yeah. If you sell anger management therapy, why don't you serve him an ad? He can probably use that service.
That's so true, man. That's so true.
People who do those kind of businesses, they probably don't think that way, right?
I know, exactly. I don't know. Some of them are pretty smart. I don't know if you've seen and oftentimes there are good example is occasionally if I'm up late working or whatever, and I'll go to a social media platform or something, I'll see ads for can't sleep, get some, get our product that helps you sleep better, kind of those sorts of things. I think those kinds of deals. But yeah, I think there is a market for marketing to or advertising to guys like me that like to yell obscenities at their smart speakers.
Absolutely. And now maybe that's a startup. All of a sudden, we should announce it, right? But that's a startup. Somebody should have a startup around that. Can I tell you one really dumb thing that's a non sequitur?
It would make me very happy if you did that.
I am really proud of the advertisements that Pandora and other free services serve to me. Can I tell you that?
Yeah. What are you
really proud that it's benign, boring shit, right? I'm proud that I get insurance stuff. I get stuff about kids and kids' toys and stuff like that. And I don't get anything filthy. Right. And the reason I think about this is, I heard about a guy who was complaining about the filthy ads that he got on some free game that he played from the internet. And
what websites you been going to?
Well, exactly. Right. Exactly. What websites have you been going to? Right. And so can you imagine, going to, playing some music for some friends, you got a house party, right? Not in the pandemic, but before the pandemic, you have a house party, you got your Pandora open. If you're cheap like me and you got the free version, and it's, every 7 songs you get a commercial and it's Geico insurance and it's whatever. Right. Or instead, what if it's some filthy shit, right?
Yeah. Adam and Eve.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Maybe I've had that one once, but outside of that, so that's one of the things I'm really proud of. But that's one of the weird things about living in this world of AI and advertising and free services that are really marketing to you in some way that you don't anticipate based on your search and browser history and all the rest of that. For some reason, for me, it's a badge of honor.
I think that's funny. I think the kind of the antecedent to all of these kind of digital audio services that we get now, I'm talking about terrestrial radio, the traditional radio. And I don't listen to it very much at all, but occasionally I will if I'm listening to a sports game or something. But it's always a format that is it's geared towards men. And or rock radio maybe. And so the ads that I'm hearing that I hear and have heard for a long time are Dr. Arakaki and folks like him. Are you familiar with Dr. Arakaki?
Not at all. Tell me all about it.
Dr. Arakaki is the medical director of Revive Men's Health. And so it's the ED, it's the erectile dysfunction ads. Those are that is what I hear on terrestrial radio. That in car ads, car dealer ads. That's it. That's the.
I feel like the people who are doing the ED ads, it doesn't matter what your search history is. If they think you're a man, they're going to serve you those ads. Oh yeah, right?
Yeah, you're going to get it of a certain age.
Of a certain age, right?
Yeah.
Somehow these companies. Or maybe one master company is selling my information. They have my cell phone number. They've sold it to all these companies. I get text messages.
Really?
And the text messages come in out of the blue, out of nowhere. Right. And they say things like, hey, based on our phone call from earlier today. And I'm like, what? And then it goes into, description of their product and the benefits that it would provide. Right. But it's like, no, you're trying to trick someone who maybe made a phone call like that. It wasn't me, somebody else.
Yeah, a lot of scammers out there, man. You got to be careful.
You got to be really careful.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to talk about this Samsung Galaxy story?
I'll tell you what's interesting about this to me. What's interesting is I was reading about how, and I read, I looked at a couple different tech websites and like major stories from tech websites to try to understand what are people in the tech world thinking about and talking about right now, kind of wider. Mm-hmm. And this Galaxy story was up multiple times. It was all about how they're offering a $200 price cut from their, I don't know if it's their premium phone or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, Samsung and Apple kind of figured out that people's price point for a premium phone is $1,000, right? And so now Samsung, and so they've been playing in that world, right? So they've been playing by this one shared set of rules, right? The people who are wanting to buy a premium phone are going to buy it at $1,000. And Samsung is like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to go scorched earth. They're like, nope, we're going to do $800, right, for our premium phone. And so when it comes to price points and dropping price points, the question that I have is, does $200 make a difference for folks who are in the market for a premium phone? And is that what they're really looking at, or are they looking at features? Or are they, like our conversation earlier about the mask and Bluetooth, do they see a lower price and do they associate lower value? And I'll tell you what my hunch is. My hunch is that a small amount of difference, let's call it 10%, let's call it 20%. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you that amount in my mind probably doesn't move the needle, right? It probably influences some decisions. It probably doesn't massively move the needle, would be my guess. However, if they were to say it's $100, right? It's $200, it's $300, massively different, right? That would hugely move the needle, right? It wouldn't be profitable for them, but maybe they can make up the money in other ways. And so I wonder if this strategy of, reducing their margin per phone, but gaining wider market share, I wonder what the strategy is behind that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the kind of that is a traditional move, to gain market share, even to the point of like the loss leader kind of, the loss leader strategy of selling something at cost or potentially even lower than cost, losing money on a per unit basis in order to realize revenue later on, whether that be through subscription oriented, revenue. I really wonder if the consumer for the Samsung S21, I think is what it was called. Yeah, I think that was the one. If that is the same consumer that's going to buy the new iPhone, like I wonder, are they the same? Is there anybody that's like going? Are there many people, at least significant people, that are going, do I get the new iPhone? Or do I get the new Samsung? It's $200 or $300 difference. Is that the same person? And I wonder, and maybe I'm just biased. I don't have any hard data on this, but it feels like to me, kind of just based on anecdotal evidence that typically across the board in the United States, people that own Android phones, if you put them all in kind of one big group and then take all of the folks that own the Apple phones, the iPhones, the average income is probably going to be higher on the Apple side as it is on the Android side. And I'm wondering if this move isn't just Samsung basically realizing, hey, our market, we're going to have a really hard time cutting into the people who are buying the brand new iPhone, every 2 years or every year when the new one comes out. We need to not be spending so much time trying to go after them. And then let's go one standard deviation down in the average like household income and serve those folks, those kind of solid middle class, but are going to be cost conscious enough to be, I want a great phone, but do I want to spend $1,100 or I want to spend $800 or $700 or, that is a difference.
What's really wild is that in the grand scheme of time, right? Even in the last 100 years, last 50 years, last 20 years, the idea of spending $800 even on a phone is bonkers.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, bonkers. Right. Like 20 years ago, you would spend for a phone, for the most part, you're buying just a household phone that's plugged into the wall of your physical home or apartment or whatever. And maybe you're going to buy an answering machine. And here's the thing, I don't even have any idea what a hard plugged into the wall phone costs. 20 years ago, right? Was it $50? Was it $25? I don't know.
I don't remember.
It wasn't $800.
No, right? I had a Garfield phone, but I don't think that's the right analogy. I don't think the telephone's the right analogy if we're talking. So 20 years ago would have been the year 2000 or 2001. I don't know that is like 2000, 2001. We had, cell phones were becoming more ubiquitous. I think going back even further though, like going back 30 years, to which would, we're talking about 1990 or 1991. I think the good analogy is going to be a personal computer at that time, because that's what people were buying. They were buying that was still whenever on the PC side, on the Windows driven PC side, when the 8086, those chips were the thing. And so you had the XT, which was the 8086, I think is what they call it. And then that chip, and then the next version, the AT, which was the 286, and then the 386. And I think that's probably the better analogy if you're looking back 30 years ago. Like, how much were we spending in adjusted dollars 30 years ago for a brand new right off the line 386 with a US robotics modem that was 14.4, like I remember that.
Probably a lot more in adjusted dollars than you were spending today on a phone, right?
Yeah, sure.
But one of the differences today too is that, in addition to your, in historical terms, a very expensive phone, right? You also probably have a pretty expensive laptop. You probably also have a monitor. You may also have expensive headphones. You may also have a webcam, right? And you may even have two computers, right? So I think one of the interesting things is how almost like the barrier to entry to professional life in terms of finances, right, has really grown dramatically. Yeah, it has. Right? And income, like, while some people have done really well as far as the income growth goes, there's the overall income, especially kind of middle class, has been flat. Yeah. Flat. Totally flat. That's really, it's really troubling. And so you think about it was a big deal. I think it was in the 90s, right? I think in our house, we had internet in our house in the mid 90s. And from my recollection, it was paid for by, my dad's employer, because he had a job in IT and he needed to be able to access database stuff and did database analysis stuff. And so there was a home computer and all that stuff was paid for by the company, right? Wow. At the time, right? And so, but now, like, in order to complete school assignments, right, there has to be internet, right? There has to be connectivity, right? Yeah. And now the school my kids go to, right, he gets provided an iPad, right, to do all this work, right? But you pay the internet bill, right? And the internet is required in order to participate in public education, right? So that's right. Should internet cost, if you're required to have the internet to participate in public education, should that be part of public education, right? Should that be a utility that's a public benefit of society? I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting discussion, and it might be an interesting one to have kind of society wide, right? Understanding and appreciating flat income growth on average, right? Yeah. But at the same time, the increased need to spend money on things that allow you to participate in today's economy. So, do you remember what your first computer was? It was a compact Presario, nice. 900, 9000. I don't remember, right? Nice. I do remember that it had something like 995 megabytes of like hard drive space, right? Nice. So that was at the right. And so it's less than a gigabyte, right? And so And that's part of what I remember, right? And now, like, you've got a computer with hundreds, right, of gigabytes of hard drive space, and so much more RAM than the computers of old used to have, right? Yeah. So, yeah.
I had
remember yours?
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. It was a really dramatic moment because I first sat down at a computer when I was in second grade, which is in the early 80s. It was we had two of them, actually, two different kinds of computers at the school where I went. It was a TRS-80, Tandy, I think that was right. It was the company that made the company that owned Radio Shack. If you remember Radio Shack. Yeah. That was my first job in college, by the way.
Really?
I was a salesperson at Radio Shack. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, that's I'm not really proud of that necessarily, but anyway. So it was TRS-80 and we had Apple IIe's as well, or Apple IIs, and so those were the two.
Really?
And so I remember the first one I got, I'm wanting to say this was probably 88, maybe 1988, and I got a Commodore 64.
Wow.
And so didn't have a disk drive, and it plugged into a television, kind of like how an old video game, like you had the little 300 ohm connectors that look like little forks that you put in the back of the antenna. And it was,
you're predating me, but I believe you.
It didn't. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It didn't have a disk. It didn't have a disk drive. It had a cassette tape drive.
Yeah. Okay.
And so to load something up, what you had to do is you put the cassette in, you press the button on the Commodore 64 and you hit play, and then it would play. And there was audio you could hear, like the tape actually had audio, and it would load up whatever the program was. So the Commodore 64 came loaded with the basic programming language. And so I got this computer. It was a gift, but I didn't get any software with it. I didn't get any, like literally there was I was like, I got this thing, but I got like no software, no cassette tapes to nothing. I just literally had BASIC. And so I spent almost an entire summer learning how to program BASIC so I could make my own video games for myself.
Wow. How did that go? Did you create a video game?
I did, and it was a video game. It was something I really wanted. It was very cool. It was like a flying game, but it was like literally just there was a cursor, and then I used the random function to make the target would move around, and then you'd have to move, to try to hit the target, and you press the space key, and it would be like you're shooting, and it would make the little sound, and like it was like I spent a while on it, and got it done, and I was very proud of it. I had a game to play, so.
So I'm going to do a revisit to our earlier segment, because this is inspiring me, of readers are leaders, right? And so now there are so many books out there that help encourage, excite kids at a younger age to think about technology and coding.
Yeah.
And so a book I'm reading with my kids right now is called Secret Coders.
Oh.
And Secret Coders is all about these middle school, high school kids who learn how to code, and they're solving this big mystery related to their high school. And they learn how to program these robots essentially. And they put in simple commands, but they walk through basic binary, and then they walk through machine code, and translating code to binary to talk to these robots and basic commands. And so it's this, 6-7 part series of books. And so they get into all sorts of really basic ideas of coding that I took AP computer science in high school. And these are like the basic concepts that I didn't learn until AP computer science in high school. Right.
Wow.
But, my second grader, right, can read these graphic novels and learn about binary. Right. They can learn about coding. They can learn about variables. They can learn about recursive functions. Right.
Wow.
And so a lot of the stuff that, a really highly motivated person like yourself, right, just goes in there and learns basic and creates a game for themselves. Now there's all these really fun things. Right. And so, sometimes I think about how much more prepared, right, my kids will be for basically the technology-oriented marketplace economy that exists today, even than I was, right? And I grew up in a household where, my dad worked in IT, he was a database analyst, database administrator, right? So we had computers, we we had some of that stuff in the house, but now when you talk about coding and apps and all the rest of that, man, there's so much out there for kids at such an early age. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with
that's cool
kids today who are raised with all this stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, are we about time up? I think we might be. Are we? Did we?
I think we're getting there. I think we're about there. Yeah. Amazing. How should we close? How should we close today? You got any closing techniques? You got anything? You got any deals that you've closed recently that you want to brag about? Anything you've really done recently that makes you feel especially proud or confident to be a salesperson?
You know what? I don't necessarily. I mean, I'm always, I'm ABC. I'm always be closing. Like business stays business. You don't grow your business without doing a good job and selling. I really don't have closing techniques. I'm horrible at that. I have learned more good closing techniques from you just talking to you on this podcast than I ever knew, before. But I've been really happy. I mean, the thing that I think about, like when I'm selling, is this, I've referenced this guy before. His name's Dan Sullivan. He founded, this strategic coach program, which I'm very happy to participate in, a kind of an entrepreneur group sort of training program. And one of the things that he talks about a lot, and that organization talks about a lot, is really defining who you want to be a hero to in your business and how you're going to do that. Like, how are you a hero to whom? And so, as we've gotten into 2021, did a lot of kind of prep work in the downtime, really during the holidays. And then this first couple of weeks of the year, we've really been working hard on defining and understanding and making sure everybody knows in the organization to whom we're trying to be a hero and how we do that. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of. I know that's not exactly an answer to the question of closing techniques, but do you have a closing technique to share? I would love to. You teach me. I want to know.
I don't know if it's a closing technique, but one of the things that's really challenging in the world that I live in is getting all the information needed related to the buyer's buying process.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're dealing with situations where there's complicated buying processes, right? So how many people are involved, right? And the reason it's a challenge is that you don't want to insult your primary contact, right? So your primary contact, the person who gives you the information, who shares that information with you, you share things with them, right? You've got a really good rapport. So you don't want to be like, okay, who's the real decision maker, right? But you need to understand the process, right? And so I learn oftentimes best from my failures, unfortunately, right? So it'd be great if I could just hear the right way to do it and then I do it, right? But sometimes you have to fail in order to learn how to do it right. And so
it's the sting. It's like, it's always, this is my theory on that, because I'm the exact same way. It's like whenever we've had in my business, like we've had a couple of times where we've heard like some horrible lessons that have cost us tens of thousands of dollars. And that really stings. And it's the sting, it's the pain that makes you remember it.
It's the sting and the pain that makes you remember, right? And so hopefully you only need that pain once, right? And it's so painful and you apply it and you learn, right? So anyways, so probably because of some recent pain, I'm thinking about being, part of the closing technique is being really clear and having a shared understanding of what it takes to close out a deal, right? Who needs to be involved? How many people need to be involved? You've got the budget. You've got the money in the account. Is there a contract vehicle available? Does there need to be a contract vehicle available? Who approves that? How many people need to be involved in that decision? Are they aware of these conversations? How long does it typically take to get something like this approved, right? All those are really important questions that if you're like me and you say, oh, I've got a deal going, get really excited. Great. You've been working on it for months. Let's close it up. Let's wrap it out. You go tell everybody else, hey guys, I just got this deal. It's going to be awesome. Right. The paper is not signed yet. Right. And so, you got to be really careful not to get too excited before the paper's signed.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Yeah. The money. The old sales saying is the deal's not done until the check's cleared the bank.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey man, I've had such a good time chatting and catching up and running through what's going on today in the world. So appreciate it. And I'm just going to say cheers. And what are you drinking in? Water?
Water. Yeah, I'm drinking water. I'm hydrating. I'm drinking water. Hey, this is the Talky podcast. You can find more information about us at talkytalkypod.com. We're available on all of the major podcast platforms and YouTube. Please subscribe if you've enjoyed, appreciated, or even just been slightly amused by what we've done here. Click that subscribe button, and you'll get the notifications whenever we drop a new episode. So it's been fun, man.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I'm Jake Fisher. He's Mike Slack, the handsomest man in enterprise software sales.
Oh my gosh. I thought we were going to get through the episode without you saying that, but we brought it at the end.
Never. It's just jealousy, man. It's just jealousy.
All right, man. Have a great night. Thanks.
You too.